into and out of America's top secret installations.
Okay, I'm interested.
But the destination Janet goes to the most, I'm talking a few times a day, is...
Please say it, please say it.
Area 51.
Yes, grab your tinfoil hat.
An airline call sign is how planes are identified on the radio. And call signs are often simple, like American 441 or Delta 54, and sometimes call signs have a little more pizzazz, like British Airways uses Speedbird, and China Airlines uses the call sign Dynasty. Then there's the call sign Janet. Just
Janet!
Dr. Scott!
Janet!
For years, Janet has been a mystery. It's an airline that really isn't an airline. The fleet uses no logos or special markings of any kind, but for years, Janet has been operating in plain sight, taking hundreds of people into and out of McCarran Airport in Las Vegas every day. Now, the only way to fly Janet is if you're a government contractor or employee with very, very high security clearance. Don't just show up at the terminal.
How you doing?
Come here.
Okay.
Step up here for me.
Stop right there. Who could you point me to at the base who could give me some information?
Okay, what I want to tell you right now, you're trespassing on private property.
Is it government property or is it just private?
No comment. You're trespassing.
Who are you trying to kid, bud? I just trying to
Me and quit it.
Janet isn't even the airline's real name. It officially doesn't have one, though people have said it stands for Joint Air Network for Employee Transportation, or just another non-existent terminal.
Ooh, creepy.
Now, if you didn't know any better, day-to-day activity at the Janet terminal looks completely normal. Overnight, there are only 20 or 30 cars in the parking lot, but during the day, there are hundreds of cars parked there. People show up in civilian clothing, they get on the planes, they go to work. Most of the passengers fit on 4 737s. They're gone all day, they come back in the evening, get in their cars, and they go home. Just no big whoop. But where do these people actually go every day? Well, the government won't tell us. In fact, the government hasn't acknowledged that Janet even exists.
Naturally.
So let's do some digging. Janet planes have airline codes and flight numbers just like regular commercial planes. And just like typical planes, Janet's planes are equipped with transponders that allow them to be tracked. Using a few websites, linked below, you can track almost every flight in the world. But something strange happens when you track a Janet flight. As soon as it gets about 20 minutes north of Las Vegas, the plane vanishes.
Whoa.
You know what's up there?
Area 51.
The government officially calls it Homey Airport or Groom Lake, but yeah, that's Area 51. Well, how do we know? Well, first of all, unless it's an emergency, planes are required to keep their transponders on. But when a Janet airline enters Area 51 airspace, it turns off its transponder every time. And second of all, the airspace around Area 51 is highly restricted. I mean, if you try to fly in without permission, best case scenario is you'll be escorted out by fighter jets. Worst case scenario, you'll be turned into scrap metal by fighter jets. Either way, there's fighter jets. Janet also flies to Air Force Plant 42, the Tonopah Military Test Range, and the China Lake Weapons Testing Facility. Now, these are the most restricted airspaces in the world, but somehow, every day, Janet Airlines fly in and out of them without a problem. Okay, so here's the current Janet fleet.
Hey, should we be showing this?
What, this is public information?
Yeah, that wasn't my question.
What was that? You hear that? So using the fleet information, you can go to the FAA website and see who owns the plane. So let's do that.
Bingo.
Right. Okay, so this definitely is a U.S. government plane that is owned by the U.S. Air Force. Considering the patterns of the flights, it's safe to conclude that the planes are definitely taking government employees to the facilities where they work. But the destinations are also classified. Frequently, a Janet flight will tell the tower it's going to one place, but actually goes somewhere completely different.
The government lies. Well, you can knock me over with a feather.
But Janet is not technically operated by the government. It operates like a civilian airline. Okay, so if the Air Force owns the airline but doesn't operate it, who does? So who actually operates Janet Airlines? Well, a little cyber sleuthing gives us more clues. Area 51 was originally established by the CIA as a secure airport for testing advanced aircraft.
And testing other things.
In the early 70s, authority of the base transferred from the CIA to the Air Force. At that time, employees were either bussed in or they took shuttle flights from Lockheed Martin in Burbank, California.
Lockheed Martin again.
Yep. And for you guys that are new to this channel, it seems like we can't get through a single conspiracy video without Lockheed Martin coming up.
This is not an accident.
Doesn't seem to be. A few years later, Janet operation was transferred to defense contractor EG&G. And EG&G was one of the companies who helped develop the atomic bomb. So
So they were involved in shady stuff.
they were. EG&G bought a few used planes from China, transitioned the fleet to Boeing 737s, and moved the op to Gold Coast Terminal in Las Vegas. Now, if you Google the location of the Janet Airlines terminal, you get something called the AECOM hangar, which Google describes as a non-governmental organization.
Suspicious.
I thought so too. So let's backtrack. AECOM hangar used to be called the Gold Coast Terminal. The original operator of the Gold Coast was defense contractor EG&G. How do we know it was EG&G? Well, they posted a job listing saying so, and I'll link it below. Now, EG&G was acquired by the Carlyle Group in 1999, which was acquired by the URS Corporation in 2002, which was acquired by AECOM in 2014, so AECOM hangar.
That's a huckleberry.
Yep. So what does AECOM do? Well, the company describes itself very vaguely as a global network of design, engineering, construction, and management professionals partnering with clients to imagine and deliver a better world.
Word salad.
With revenues of $18 billion.
Word salad with government contracts.
Yep, and there's more. AECOM recently posted a job opening for a first officer / co-pilot in Las Vegas, Nevada. The preferred qualifications include Boeing 737 experience, okay, and high performance and or jet aircraft experience. Okay, the job listing doesn't make any reference to Janet, but candidates must qualify for and maintain a top secret government security clearance.
Yep, that's Janet.
Definitely Janet.
This week we've heard the contention of UFO researchers that there's a secret government within our government. While that may be hard to believe coming from the UFO perspective, we've certainly learned in Watergate and the Iran-Contra scandal that factions within our government can and do pursue their own hidden agendas outside of the law, outside the control of Congress, or the knowledge of the American people.
Area 51 is inside the Nevada Test and Training Range, which is made up of smaller, distinct areas with different purposes. And many sections are designated Area X. So yes, there is an Area 49, an Area 50, an Area 52, and so on. Now, surrounding Area 51 is Nellis Air Force Range, which covers a huge amount of southern Nevada. Now, at various points in time, Area 51 has been called the Watertown Strip, Dreamland, Paradise Ranch, Homey Airport, the area, the remote location, or out of town.
Isn't that cute?
Or sometimes it's simply referred to as nowhere.
Nowhere? It's a place. We've been there. It sucks.
Area 51 has been home to some of America's most highly secret aviation programs.
Among other things.
This is where the U-2 spy plane and Lockheed A-12 were secretly tested, where the F-117 Nighthawk stealth attack aircraft was developed before being deployed to the Gulf. And now, who really knows what's hiding in the hangars?
They're unidentified.
But we do know that on average, about 1,000 people a day take Janet planes from Vegas to Area 51 and back. Could they be working on the Lockheed SR-72, a spy plane capable of Mach 6 or 4,600 miles an hour? Or are they working on the B-21 Raider, a new generation of stealth bomber that can deliver a nuclear weapon anywhere in the world? Or
He says he was hired to work at an area called S4, which is a few miles south of Groom Lake. At S4, he says, are flying saucers, antimatter reactors, and other working examples of technology that is seemingly beyond human capabilities.
Right, this came from somewhere else. I mean, as bizarre as that is to believe, but I mean, it's there. I saw it. I know what the current state of the art is in physics, and it can't be done.
could these people be commuting from Las Vegas on a secret airline to work on extraterrestrial spacecraft?
I think so.
It's possible. Nobody really knows. But every year we seem to get closer to some kind of reveal. For years, the government denied Area 51 even existed, but finally admitted it in 2013. And after years of denial, the CIA just released a bunch of UFO documents acknowledging they exist. And a full document dump is happening later this year. Air Force and Navy pilots are coming forward with stories and footage. Major news organizations are covering UFOs as legitimate stories.
Every day for at least a couple of years.
Wait a minute, every day for a couple of years?
UFOs aren't fringe anymore. People, regular, normal people, want to know what's going on. The US government won't acknowledge that Janet Airlines exists, but that's okay. We know that it does. Considering the ubiquity of information today and the speed at which it travels, it's becoming more and more difficult for governments to keep secrets from its citizens. And overall, that's a good thing.
3+1 5+0 0.
Now, I live in Las Vegas and I work pretty close to the airport, and I see those planes all the time.
Human, we got a problem. We hit something during the dig.
I don't like the sound of that. Do we have a code brown?
Sewer? No, we learned our lesson last time. We know where every sewer pipe in the neighborhood is. Oosh, that was a mess. You eat a lot of corn, you know that?
Just tell me, what did you find?
Bones.
Bones like a body?
No, dinosaur bones.
Are you sure they're dinosaur bones?
100%. Morgan has a master's in paleontology. He says it's an Allosaurus.
Allosaurus?
It's a large carnivorous theropod that lived during the late Jurassic period.
I know what... Wait, well, what's the problem?
Oh, well, that fuzzy moron sent the picture to his buddy at the Natural History Museum. Now the whole freaking neighborhood knows. Our entire property is cordoned off and declared an archaeological site. Now we gotta find an Airbnb for about 3 months.
3 months?
And the president of the HOA stopped by. He wants a word.
I told you not to...
And they sent the building inspector from the city. We got fines of the wazoo over here. Apparently our paddock room, bunker, and bowling alley are not up to code.
Did you just say bowling alley?
And the tax assessor said your property taxes are going up because of the swimming pool.
Great.
Oh, don't worry. I put him in his place and told him taxes are theft.
Oh, I'm sure he loved that.
He did not. You're being audited this year.
Great. Thanks. Let me wrap this up and I will get over there. I lost my place. I'm out of sorts. Last episode for today is one of my favorite internet mysteries. Cicada 3301. One day, out of nowhere, an image appears on 4chan. The picture of a duck. Nobody knows what it is. Some people do some digging and realize the image contains a secret message. And that leads to a series of puzzles that become more and more difficult to solve. And that leads to an international scavenger hunt with all these puzzles and mysteries to solve. And it spans a couple of years. And the thing is, nobody knows who's behind Cicada 3301. But it all seems very deliberate. Early in the morning of January 4th, 2012, a strange message appeared on the internet. Just a few lines of text on a black background posted anonymously.
Hello. We are looking for highly intelligent individuals. To find them, we have devised a test. There is a message hidden in this image. Find it, and it will lead you on the road to finding us. We look forward to meeting the few that will make it all the way through. Good luck. 3301.
Many speculated that it was a recruiting tool for the NSA, the CIA, MI6, or even the Masons. But who was really behind this? And what was its purpose? And did it even have a purpose? Whether it did or not, it didn't matter. Because when you post a puzzle on the internet looking for highly intelligent people, that's a challenge that's simply impossible to resist. So the hunt for Cicada 3301 was on. On January 4th, 2012, the first puzzle was posted on 4chan by a self-identified group called 3301. The post was simply an image with text.
There is a message hidden in this image. Find it, and it will lead you on the road to finding us.
The puzzle was open to anyone and everyone. As you solve each clue, you move on to the next level. The image that was posted on 4chan was the first clue. Solvers tried various methods to extract the secret message. Some used Photoshop to view the pixels. They applied different filters and techniques to see what could be hidden in the image. But the solution to the puzzle wasn't visual, it was plain text. When an image is opened in a text editor, it looks like nonsense, strings of characters and symbols. But to a computer, these symbols make sense. It's a binary format representing pixel placement, color information, metadata, and all kinds of other stuff. And when the 3301 image was opened in a text editor, there was a string of characters at the end of the file. Because of the repeating characters and the name Tiberius Claudius Caesar, people quickly and correctly guessed the message was encoded with a Caesar cipher. A Caesar cipher works by shifting the letters of the alphabet a fixed number of places down or up. You choose a shift value, for example, 3, and for each letter in the original text, replace it with the letter that's located 3 positions down. If you reach the end of the alphabet, you wrap around to the beginning. For example, using a shift value of 3, A becomes D, B becomes E, C becomes F, and so on. The Caesar cipher is easy to crack with modern methods and isn't considered secure, but it's historically significant and often used as a basic introduction to cryptography. Such was the case with the first puzzle. When the message was decoded with a shift of 4 places, the result was a URL, which turned out to be another image.
Whoops. Just decoys this way. Looks like you can't guess how to get the message out.
The participants hit their first wall. Opening this image in a text editor showed nothing. Turned out that the image contained 2 key words that hint at how to get the real message out. The words guess and out. Those keywords indicated you needed to run the image through OutGuess, a small application used for steganography. Throughout this complicated scavenger hunt, OutGuess would become a favorite tool of Cicada 3301. Now, steganography is hiding a message, image, or file within another message, image, or file. Unlike encryption, which scrambles data so that it's unreadable without the correct key, steganography conceals the fact that a secret message exists at all. Imagine you have a digital photo and you want to hide a text message in it. You could subtly change the color values of certain pixels to encode the text. To anyone looking at the image, it appears normal, but someone who knows where and how to look could extract the hidden message. OutGuess revealed a page on Reddit and a different clue, a book cipher. Book ciphers are almost impossible to crack without the book, but 3301 knew how to give us just enough information to keep us hooked, and people were hooked. So when solvers finally made it to Reddit, they realized that Cicada 3301 was just warming up. When the image of the duck was processed with OutGuess, it revealed a URL and a book cipher. A book cipher is a type of encryption where the key to deciphering the code is a specific text, such as a book or article. Each word or letter in the secret message is replaced by a coordinate that points to its location in the chosen text. For example, if the word apple is found on page 42, line 5, word 3 of the book, you'd replace apple in your message with the coordinates 42, 5, 3. The Beale ciphers are a set of 3 ciphertexts that supposedly reveal the location of $43 million of hidden treasure somewhere in Bedford County, Virginia. They were first published in 1885, and the second text was actually decoded using the Declaration of Independence. The other 2 texts are still a mystery, but over 100 years later, people are still looking.
43 mil keeps you motivated.
It does. So to decode 3301's book cipher, we'll need the book, which could be found on Reddit. But when you got to the page on Reddit, it was full of posts with encrypted titles. There was also an odd image in the header. Even the page had a title that looked like random characters. But by now, everyone knew there was nothing random about it. There were also several lines of text and 2 additional images. Using OutGuess on the welcome mat image gives us this.
From here on out, we will cryptographic.
On the welcome mat image gives us this. And 2 additional images. Using OutGuess on the welcome mat image gives us this.
From here on out, we will cryptographically sign all messages with this key. It is available on the MIT key servers. Patience is a virtue. Good luck, 3301.
This information was extremely important to the people following the clues. There were a lot of imposters popping up pretending to be Cicada 3301. But because 3301 implemented PGP encryption, new messages could be authenticated. PGP stands for Pretty Good Privacy, and this is an encryption system used for sending emails and sensitive files. How it works is you create 2 keys. One is public, which you share with everyone. The other is private, which only you have. So if someone wants to send you a secure message, they encrypt it with the public key that you shared, and then you use your private key to decode the message. 3301 would encrypt all their clues going forward, like the clue hidden in the second image, which was a stereogram, which is an optical illusion that creates a 3D image when viewed in a specific way. This stereogram kind of looked like the Holy Grail.
Cute.
And this image also contained a secret message.
The key has always been right in front of your eyes. This isn't the quest for the Holy Grail. Stop making it more difficult than it is. Good luck. 3301.
The subreddit also contained many lines of what appeared to be encrypted text. The question that everyone faced was, which cipher method had to be used, and how do you find the key? The hidden message provided a hint. The key was literally in front of your eyes. It was the image in the header. Those symbols are actually Mayan numbers. The title translates to
Kokismira Thosat Nabka.
What are you talking about?
The clue. I'm gonna solve this one.
Okay, what is it?
Kokismira Thosat Nabka.
Yeah.
That's a Mayan word for something, right? A Mayan word for goat kiss?
No. The letters make up a...
The Mayan word for lettuce?
No, they make up
The Mayan word for makeup?
No, it's a key.
The Mayan word for key?
It's not a Mayan word. It's an encryption key.
Okay. Don't get your panties in a wad. Key to what?
Remember the subreddit was full of posts with encrypted titles? It was determined that they were encoded with a Vigenère cipher, which is another letter-shifting encryption technique. Vigenère encoded text needs a key. The string of letters made from the Mayan numbers was that key. Without the key, decoding a Vigenère encrypted message is almost impossible. Even with the key, it would take a long time. And if you miss just one letter, you end up with meaningless texts. So your translation has to be perfect. But there's no reason to do it manually. It takes a lot of processing power, but computers can eventually guess most Vigenère keys. But if you already have the key, computers can easily decode the message. There are even websites to help you do this. The decoded text was from Thomas Bulfinch's mythology. This was a classic work based on the tales of King Arthur, the Knights of the Round Table, and their hunt for the Holy Grail. So now the solvers knew the book that was needed to decode the book cipher. But this time it wasn't a message or a web page or an image. It was a phone number. At first, people thought Cicada 3301 was just an online troll pumping out puzzles to waste everyone's time. But there was just too much work put into it. Whoever was behind the puzzles was someone with computer skills and advanced knowledge in cryptography. So the duck image led to a book code and a page on Reddit. And the page on Reddit led to 2 more images, Mayan numbers, and the book cipher. And the book was about King Arthur's quest for the Holy Grail.
Get on with it.
Yes, get on with it!
Now we can use the book code mentioned in the outguessed message from the initial image. A book code encodes each letter with 2 numbers, the line number and the character index in the line. By applying the book code to the text, we get the following text string.
Call us. Telephone number 214-390-9608.
When the book cipher revealed a phone number in Austin, Texas, codebreakers thought they'd finally learn who was behind Cicada 3301.
Very good. You have done well. There are 3 prime numbers associated with the original final .jpeg image. 3301 is one of them. You will have to find the other 2. Multiply all 3 of these numbers together and add a .com. On the end to find the next step. Good luck. Goodbye.
No answers, just another clue. Cicada 3301 was a series of intricately woven puzzles. Each puzzle got progressively more complex, but future puzzles often referred back to earlier ones, indicating this entire process was thought out well in advance. The length of the scavenger hunt also weeded out casual participants. Only those with patience would continue. It was natural selection. Solvers went back to the original image, looking for anything that would indicate a prime number. Outguess revealed nothing. Scanning the image with Photoshop and other forensic tools also provided no help. People counted the characters and the spaces in the text. They converted the characters to ASCII. They ran the text through every cryptography algorithm you can think of, and still nothing. But like many of the Cicada puzzles, the answer was hidden in plain sight. The original image looks like a square. But keen observers noticed it wasn't a perfect square. The image was actually 509 pixels wide by 503 pixels tall. 509 and 503 are prime numbers. Multiply 509 by 503 by 3301, and you get 845145127. Add a .com just like the voicemail said, and that's where we see the infamous cicada image for the first time. Under the image was a timer, and it was counting down. When the countdown reached 0, the timer was replaced with a list of coordinates. 14 locations in 5 countries all over the world, with an invitation to find the location nearest you. Up until now, the puzzles existed exclusively on the internet, but now Cicada 3301 was going out into the real world. The list of 14 locations around the world indicated that Cicada 3301 was a global organization, or a handful of people with the time and money to create complex puzzles and travel the globe. But by taking the next round of puzzles into the real world, Cicada created another filter. In order to move forward, not only did you have to be excellent at cryptography, you had to have the means to travel to one of the locations provided, and only the most committed could proceed. At each of the coordinates was a poster containing the cicada image and a QR code. Scanning the QR code resulted in a link to another JPEG file. Like before, running the image through Outguess revealed secret text.
A poem of fading death, named for a king, meant to be read only once and vanish. Alas, it could not remain unseen.
The image also included a warning.
You've shared too much to this point. We want the best, not the followers. Thus, the first few there will receive the prize. Good luck, 3301.
Considering the difficulty of the puzzles and the mystery surrounding them, it was only natural that people were talking and sharing information and collaborating. If you didn't live near one of the cicada locations, you almost had no choice but to ask for help. But Cicada 3301 was clearly watching, and if you got caught teaming up, you'd be out. And it didn't take long to identify the text referred to by the last clue. It was the poem Agrippa by cyberpunk novelist William Gibson. Agrippa is a very cicada type of poem. It was originally distributed on floppy disk, and after you read the poem, it encrypted itself.
Meant to be read only once and vanished.
Solving the book code resulted in another URL. But this one was different, a .onion extension. Onion routing makes the data's source and destination untraceable by encrypting the data multiple times, like the layers of an onion. Onion pages aren't accessible with a regular web browser. You need a specialized browser designed specifically to access pages hosted on the Onion Router network, or Tor network. In other words, the dark web. When most people think of the dark web, they imagine a place full of illegal activities, a place where people can buy and sell drugs, weapons, and worse. And it's true, those things exist on the dark web, but that's only a small fraction of what's there. The dark web is actually a part of the deep web, which is all the unindexed parts of the internet, including private databases, email accounts, and subscription services. In fact, most of the data on the internet exists on the deep web. The dark web is specifically the section of the deep web accessible only through specialized tools like the Tor browser, which makes web traffic anonymous. Before it was made public, Tor was used by the US Navy to secure government communications. Later, it became a beacon for privacy advocates and anyone looking to shield their online activity from prying eyes. Not just criminals, though. Journalists use the dark web to communicate with activists in oppressive countries. Whistleblowers have used the dark web to remain anonymous. If you want to remain anonymous and untraceable, you go to the dark web. It's only natural that a group like Cicada 3301 would end up there. So cicada solvers who made it this far typed the Onion link into their Tor browser and were greeted with the following message.
Congratulations. Please create a new email address with a public free web-based service. One you've never used before and enter it below. We recommend you do this while still using Tor for anonymity. We will email you a number within the next few days, in the order in which you arrived at this page. Once you've received it, come back to this page and append a slash, and then the number you received to this URL, 3301.
This would be the first time that Cicada would communicate directly with people. Very few made the cut, but those that did received an email a few days later.
This message will only be displayed once. Here is a message that has been encrypted with RSA. The encrypted message is a number. Break the decryption key, then come back to this same URL and enter the decrypted message to continue. Each person who has come this far has received a unique message encrypted with a unique key. You are not to collaborate. Sharing your message or key will result in not receiving the next step. Good luck. 3301.
Since each participant was assigned a unique number, Cicada 3301 was able to track who was sharing information. If you got caught, you were out.
Hello. You have shared your information online. You are now removed from this altogether. Even if you crack the key you've been given, it doesn't matter, because you have demonstrated that you can't be trusted to follow simple instructions anyway. Thank you for your participation to this point. Goodbye, 3301.
But those who were able to solve the puzzle and solve it alone received an email. The email contained the following text, along with a piece of music.
This song is your own path. Another stop on the road toward enlightenment. Follow it and share not.
Oh, that was terrible. But still better than K-pop.
Ice cream chillin', ice cream chillin', chillin', ice cream chillin' like a villain.
The music was encoded as a MIDI file. MIDI is music expressed as code. It was found that there were two tracks that provided two different messages. Each message had fewer than 26 combinations of pitch and tone, which hinted that each combination could represent one letter. The music was decoded into a cryptogram, which could then be broken.
Very good. You have proven to be most dedicated to come this far to attain enlightenment. Create a GPG key for your email address and upload it to the MIT key servers. Then encrypt the following word list using the Cicada 3301 public key. Sign it with your key. Send the ASCII armored ciphertext to the Gmail address from which you received your numbers.
Everyone who received this email was also given a set of 50 unique words. Those words were to be encrypted and emailed back. What happened after that is unknown, but about a month later, the image on the subreddit changed.
Hello? We have now found the individuals we sought. Thus, our month-long journey ends. For now, thank you for your dedication and effort. If you were unable to complete the test or did not receive an email, do not despair. There will be more opportunities like this one. Thank you all.
3301.
And just as cryptically as the Cicada puzzle started, it finally ended. It was assumed that the mysterious group, whoever they were, finally found the highly intelligent individuals it needed. Cicada 3301 stopped posting messages and was largely forgotten. But a year and a day after the first puzzle was posted, Cicada 3301 was back. Cicada was quiet for a year, but on January 5th, a new image was posted to 4chan.
Hello again. Our search for intelligent individuals now continues. The first clue is hidden within this image. Find it, and it will lead you on the road to finding us. We look forward to meeting the few that will make it all the way through. Good luck. 3301.
Like before, running the image through outguests led to a book code, which led to a URL, which led to a file. A large file. This file was its own mini operating system. When you booted it up, it displayed the prime numbers up to 3301 and then restarted the computer. It would do this indefinitely. But there was also a message within the numbers.
The key is all around you. Good luck, 3301.
Those numbers led to a Twitter account that was posting tons of encrypted text that nobody could decode. But on the mini operating system, someone realized that you could break the boot sequence and browse the file system. In one of the folders, there was a song, this time an MP3 file. According to the ID tags, the title of the file was The Instar Emergence. Solvers tried all sorts of techniques on this file to search for hidden meanings. They played it backwards. They isolated frequencies. They even ran the sound through spectral analyzers, but they found nothing. There were hidden messages and odd mini-poems all over the place, but nothing seemed connected. Then someone determined that the messages from the Twitter feed were actually lines of binary code, which could be assembled into a file. But it was encrypted and nobody could figure out how to decode it. It turned out that the messages were encoded with the binary data from another file as the key. That file was the song. So using the song, the Twitter data was decrypted into an image. A rune table. The rune table image also contained secret text, which led to more puzzles, which led to the dark web and to more posters around the world with different coordinates. In order to move forward from here, you'd need to have solved every puzzle so far. Now, on the posters, there were phone numbers, and each phone number required an access code that you'd decipher using the rune table. Once you got past the access code, a computerized voice then read you a string of letters and numbers, which turned out to be a hex code. And then the hex code converted to a page on the dark web, which had a test for you to take. There were 19 questions in total, some mathematical, some logical, some philosophical. Very few people made it past this test, but those that did received an email.
Congratulations. Your testing has finally come to an end. We hope you have enjoyed the vacation over the last few weeks. You will be very busy now should you choose to join us. You have all wondered who we are, and so we shall now tell you. We are an international group. We have no name. We are drawn together by common beliefs. That tyranny and oppression of any kind must end. That censorship is wrong, and that privacy is an inalienable right.
Cicada 3301 was pretty well known by now and was being connected to hacker groups, and this was addressed in that email.
We do not engage in illegal activity, nor do our members. If you are engaged in illegal activity, we ask that you cease any and all illegal activities or decline membership at this time. We will not ask questions if you decline. However, if you lie to us, we will find out.
But the big question was why? What does Cicada 3301 even do?
We are much like a think tank in that our primary focus is on researching and developing techniques to aid the ideas we advocate. Liberty, privacy, security. And if you choose to accept membership, we are happy to have you on board to help with future projects.
So that was it. Cicada 3301 found a few more recruits and went dark. But the following January, people eagerly waited to see if Cicada would return. And they did not disappoint. After being inactive for a year, in January 2014, the Cicada Twitter account tweeted a link to a new image.
Hello. Epiphany is upon you. Your pilgrimage has begun. Enlightenment awaits. Good luck. 3301.
During the time Cicada was quiet, there were lots of fake puzzles floating around claiming to be from Cicada 3301, and they all turned out to be fakes. But running this new image through Outguess revealed a new message that proved to be authentic. Cicada 3301 was back, and they followed their familiar format. They embedded messages and images that could be extracted with Outguess. These images led to more clues on various web pages and the dark web. And a new piece of music was also discovered. This one was called Interconnectedness. Using some familiar techniques, as well as some new ones, Cicada solvers concluded that Cicada was focusing on a single document. It's called the Liber Primus, or First Book. As more puzzles were solved, more pages of Liber Primus were uncovered. The book was written using the runes found in earlier puzzles. But the solution to every puzzle seemed to be a clue to yet another puzzle. People went back to the music file. They found more clues. From image files, they extracted more codes and more puzzles like magic squares and anagrams. All of those were decoded to reveal strange poems, which were nothing more than more clues. Liber Primus is 59 pages, and only a handful have been solved. And the pages that are solved are still mysterious. January 2015 came and went with nothing from Cicada. Some people speculated that Cicada had enough recruits for whatever it was they were doing. Others thought that Cicada would stay silent until all of Liber Primus was solved, and they could be right. In January 2016, Cicada tweeted a link to a new image. Running the image through Outguess proved it was authentic.
Hello? The path lies empty. Epiphany seeks the devoted. Liber Primus is the way. Its words are the map. Their meaning is the road, and their numbers are the direction. Seek, and you will be found. Good luck. 3301. Beware false paths.
Many speculated that their numbers are the direction was the major clue, but still no progress was made. In 2017, a user stumbled across a message from Cicada in Google's cached pages that nobody had noticed.
Beware false paths. Always verify PGP signature. 3301.
And that was the last anyone heard from Cicada 3301. It's been a few years with no solution to Liber Primus and no further contact from Cicada. This was disappointing to a lot of people. After all this, over several years, we were still no closer to finding out who Cicada 3301 was or what they did. But Liber Primus was the third quest. The first two were solved. And the people who solved them? They started talking. When that first image appeared on 4chan looking for highly intelligent individuals, the chase was on. The mysterious group known as 3301 presented clues and challenges that thousands of techies and puzzle solvers found impossible to resist. Each mystery became more complex. The clues that connected Julius Caesar and King Arthur to cryptography were genius and easy enough to solve that people became hooked. The solutions that led to phone numbers and geographic coordinates made the search even more real. But over time, it became clear that 3301 was looking for a specific type of person. To solve Cicada, you needed knowledge of the concepts and the tools used in encryption. You had to have computer skills, understand operating systems, and be handy with programming. It also didn't hurt if you had expertise in Mayan numerology and pre-Christian literature.
Who doesn't?
But who was Cicada? A popular theory was that this was a recruiting effort for a government intelligence agency like CIA, NSA, or MI6. And there was plenty of precedent for that. During the Second World War, the top-secret Government Code and Cipher School used crossword puzzles printed in the Daily Telegraph to identify good candidates for Bletchley Park. Those recruits, along with Alan Turing, went on to solve the Enigma machine, which helped the Allies win the war. NSA and CIA ran similar contests over the years. Companies like Google and Microsoft have also used cryptography and puzzles to recruit. But one of the early winners said Cicada was none of these. After solving the final round of puzzles in 2013, he received an email with a username and password along with a site address on the dark web. The site had two parts, a message board and a chat room. The message board had various topics, including a welcome section and an area for Cicada's goals and current projects. The chat room had about 20 members. According to a couple of the winners, Cicada wanted to further the use of cryptography so more people would have access to internet privacy. Cicada had some big goals, but in the short term, they wanted to recruit highly technical people to develop open-source cryptography software.
All that to find people to write free software?
Yep, and I think this was Cicada's big mistake. The recruits didn't want to write software, they wanted to solve puzzles. And when the puzzles stopped, the membership dwindled. There were spikes in membership when new challenges appeared, but it was the same story. The winners weren't interested in writing software. They weren't driven by ideology. They didn't care about politics. They just wanted to solve puzzles. The same thing happens when NSA, CIA, GCHQ, and other intelligence organizations do recruitment drives. Many of the winners are offered positions in one of these agencies, and many of them refuse. They don't want to work in government.
Yeah, they're too smart to work in government.
Well, that might be part of it, but really, they just want to solve puzzles. Whenever you achieve a task, your brain rewards you with a hit of dopamine. This could mean finishing a workout, completing a school project, or figuring out an escape room. Achieve a goal, get some dopamine. Our brains love dopamine. It turns out that solving problems is one of the biggest, if not the biggest source of dopamine for the brain. Solving puzzles like those presented by Cicada reward us with dopamine while we're working on them. And when we actually solve one, well, Cicada solvers describe that feeling as nothing less than exhilarating. Now, plenty of people are interested in politics and ideology, but not too many of them would describe their interest as exhilarating. Puzzles make us happy. When was the last time politics made you happy? And although two of the goals of this channel are to educate and inspire, the primary goal is to entertain. In other words, the Y-Files is here to make you happy. So that's why I've included a cicada-type puzzle in this video. Think you can find it? Okay, now, I don't know if you caught the end of that, but there is a cicada-type puzzle in that episode. Now, my puzzles are nowhere near as complicated as cicada, but I still think I made them pretty challenging. So I was kind of annoyed and surprised when someone solved it in 90 minutes. And I thought, oh no, I made it way too easy. But I didn't. He admitted that he got very, very lucky with one of the clues, that he didn't really solve it. It was almost an accident, which turned out to be true because 1,200 people thought they solved it over the next 2, 3, 4 days, and 21 of them got it right. And I don't know how many other people tried, but I got 1,200 responses and only 21 got it correct. So if you like solving stuff like that, like 3301, go watch that episode and look for the clues. They are there. Anyway, this has been a Y-Files compilation episode. My name is AJ. That's Ecklefish.
I didn't want to do this, human, but I'm afraid I'm gonna have to pull rank on you. I'm with the mattress police. There are no tags on these mattresses.
I hope you had some fun and learned some new stuff today. I hope at least one of those episodes was new for you. Like every topic we cover on the channel, like every episode you saw today, each one was recommended by someone in the audience. So if there's a story you'd like to see, go to theyfiles.com/tips and let me know. And remember, The Y-Files is also a podcast. Twice a week, I post deep dives into the stories we cover here on the channel, and I also post the occasional stories that wouldn't be allowed on the channel, at least not allowed on YouTube. I don't even really want to say, yeah, well, they're called unredacted, and I cover things like the World War II guy, the bad guy from World War II, how he possibly escaped and lived. That's a good episode. I did one on Aleister Crowley. Can't cover that on YouTube. Definitely not for the kids, but stuff like that is up there. So it's called The Y-Files Operation Podcast, and it's available everywhere. Now, when our schedule is all mixed up like this, and you're missing The Y-Files, you can always check out our Discord server. We've got over 60,000 people on there, so 24/7, there's someone on there talking about all the crazy stuff we talk about here on the channel, and it's a community. It's really become like a part of my family. It's a lot of fun, it's a very supportive community, and it's free to join. So check it out. And special thanks to our amazing Patreon members who make all this possible and who allow me to take breaks like this. I could not do this channel without you. I could not take these breaks without your support and without your trust. And I appreciate you. And the thing I'm most proud of is the community that we've built. Our patrons have built. It's really mostly you. I'm just the guy who talks to the fish. You guys are amazing. And if you're not part of our community and you'd like to join a very supportive group of amazing people, consider becoming a member on Patreon. For as little as $3 a month, you get perks like episodes early with no commercials, access to merch that only members get, you get special access on Discord, access to certain channels that are only available to members. Plus on Discord, you get 2 live streams every week just for members. And those are unique. Those are a lot of fun. That's my webcam is on like this. I'm here like this. Plus you get to meet everybody else on the Y-Files team. So Gino, Jen, Victoria, Hybrid is on there, Mischief, everybody you get to talk to, and you can put your camera on, hop up on stage and interact with us, ask a question, make fun of Gino's hair, talk about Victoria's feet, whatever you want to do. But don't talk about my wife's feet. I mean, I kind of want to. I kind of want to tell you about them, but she would kill me. I'm already pushing my luck with her with this episode. Fortunately, she never watches this far, so I'm probably safe. Anyway, I think that's the best perk there is for being a Patreon member, other live streams. But another great way to support the channel is just grab something from the Waffle House store.
Grab a Heckler's t-shirt, or one of these coffee mugs for fisting or drinking or whatever you like to do with your leisure time, or grab something with my face on it, or a deck of cards, or one of these squeezy animal hecklefish talking toy fishes.
That's gonna do it. Until next time, be safe, be kind, know that you are appreciated, because you are.
I play Polybius in Area 51. A secret code inside the Bible said I would. I love my UFOs and paranormal fun, as well as music, so I'm singing it like I should. But then another conspiracy theory becomes the truth, my friends, and it never ends. No, it never ends. I fear the crap cat and got stuck inside Mel's hole with MK Ultra. Of being only too aware. Did Stanley Kubrick fake the moon landing alone on a film set, or were the shadow people there? The Roswell aliens just fought the smiling man, I'm told, and his name was Cold. And I can't believe I'm dancing with the fish. Hecklefish on Thursday nights with AJ2, and Wi-Fi's helping me all through the night. All I ever wanted was to just hear the truth, so the Wi-Fi's on repeat all through the night. The Mothman sightings and the solar storm still come to Agatha, the secret city.
About the catastrophic effects of fossil fuel pollution. And for just as long, I've been hearing that global warming is a myth. The two sides are constantly at each other's throats, but it's a fight that's completely unnecessary. The technology to create unlimited, clean, free energy has existed for over 100 years. Dozens, perhaps hundreds of inventors have created machines that pull energy out of thin air, machines that could defy gravity, levitate, and fly, machines that bend the fabric of space-time itself. These machines sound not just like science fiction, they sound like magic. So where are these magical devices? Well, when the inventors patented and publicized their technology, they performed another magic trick. They disappeared. I'm not sure this was such a good idea.
Human, I gotta use the company credit card again. It's an emergency.
But no, hello, how are you?
Oh, I'm sorry. How rude of me. Hello, human. How are you? Are you having a good day today?
Well, I was until you...
Company credit card. No, stat toot sweet.
Why do you need my credit card? The last time you used it, beaver lotion showed up on my statement. That was a hard conversation with the wife.
Well, excuse me, the Beaver Brothers like their fur to be shiny and luxurious. Anyway, I put all my subscriptions on one credit card, and now I'm maxed out. I need some scratch because I promised Gertie I'd take her to the Sir Humpsalot concert tonight. She loves Baby Got Hump.
I don't even want to... How many subscriptions do you have?
Well, let's see. I got Thinflix Plus, Blowfish Prime, Camel Humps at the Dock. Don't tell Gertie about that one.
Yeah, I'm going to pretend you never said that.
The Fish Flake Channel. Coral Wars, and my gym membership.
Why are you still paying for those? By the way, I've never even seen you go to the gym.
Well, yeah, but I'm gonna start bulking up. Gertie loves herself a little beefcake.
Okay, you've got way too many subscriptions. Rocket Money can help you with that.
Oh, my goodness. Did you just moonwalk your way into today's sponsor?
I sure did. Rocket Money is a personal finance app that helps you cancel subscriptions, lower bills, and manage your money better. It safely and securely identifies recurring charges so you can cancel those old subscriptions that you don't use anymore. And even if you don't cancel, you might be paying too much. Just upload a photo of your bill, and in a few clicks, Rocket Money will negotiate your bills for you. Anything from internet service to cable to phone bills.
Well, this is exactly what I need.
Yup. And I was a Rocket Money customer long before they sponsored this channel. Rocket Money has helped save its customers up to $740 a year with over $500 million in canceled subscriptions. To save more and spend less, go to rocketmoney.com/yfiles or click the link in the description to get started for free and upgrade to premium to unlock even more features.
rocketmoney.com/yfiles to get started for free?
That's right.
Okay, I'll sign up after I get back from my workout. More plates, more dates, baby.
It's a little early for you to be throwing around gym phrases, no?
Hey, you got a string hanging from your sleeve there.
I do?
Oh, sorry, my mistake. That's your, whatever you say, Pee-wee human.
That's not funny. For years, certainly my whole life, we've heard how fossil fuel pollution is creating a runaway greenhouse effect. At some point, the ice caps will melt, the oceans will rise, and every coastline in the world will be underwater. What now?
When does it happen? When do we go underwater?
Well, that's hard to...
5 years, 20, 50?
You can't really quantify...
Oh, you can't quantify it, huh?
Look, I don't want...
Is Florida still there?
What do you mean?
Let me talk slowly so you can understand. Is Florida still there?
Last I checked, Florida is still there.
Thank you. I rest my case. Global warming is a myth.
It's not a myth. Look, this isn't a video about climate change.
Oh, look, global warming is not climate change.
My point is...
How dare you?
Look, do you want clean air?
Clean air? No, who cares?
Fine, but do you want clean water?
Well, yeah.
Right. The point of this episode isn't to argue one side of the climate debate or the other. The point of this episode is that debating, arguing, and fighting about it isn't necessary, and hasn't been for over 100 years. Since the 1920s, and perhaps even earlier, scientists have discovered many different ways of making energy less expensive and more efficient. However, in every single case, their technology was suppressed. And in many cases, the inventors died under strange circumstances.
Okay, you've got my attention now.
Charles Pogue was a Canadian mechanic and car tinkerer. In the early 1930s, he started experimenting with carburetors, trying to improve fuel efficiency. Now, if you're not a gearhead, a carburetor is a part of a gas-powered engine that mixes air and fuel for combustion. The mixture is then sent to the engine cylinders, where it's ignited to power the engine. Now, unlike traditional carburetors, which mix air with liquid gasoline, the Pogue carburetor fully vaporized gas before it entered the combustion chamber. This made the engine more efficient, much more efficient. In 1936, Pogue was issued a patent for a high-mileage carburetor. This was his third iteration of the invention and his third patent. In early 1936, the Breen Motor Company tested the Pogue carburetor on a Ford V8 coupe. It got 26.2 miles on 1 pint of gasoline. That's almost 220 miles per gallon. Ford tested it. They got 200 miles per gallon. The Pogue carburetor was tested for Canadian Automotive Magazine. They reported 218 miles per gallon. Now, that article created a lot of excitement, but it wasn't good news for Charles Pogue. On the Toronto Stock Exchange, oil company stock prices crashed. Brokers were swamped with orders to dump all oil stock immediately. Soon after that, Pogue's shop was broken into. All carburetors, equipment, notes, and documents were stolen. He never built another one. He never spoke of the invention ever again.
Someone got to him.
That's the rumor. But carburetors aren't complicated. If one man figures out how to make an engine more efficient, others could do this too. And they did. But the oil companies did not forget about Pogue and the damage he almost caused. Fuel-efficient engines were not good for business. So the oil companies lobbied the U.S. government for help. And a few years later, in 1951, help arrived. The concept of patents can be traced back to ancient times, but the formal patent system that we know today came from Renaissance Europe. The first known patent law was enacted in Venice in 1474, and it was a revolutionary idea designed to encourage innovation. It offered inventors a temporary monopoly in exchange for sharing their inventions with society. But some inventions are legally patented and hidden from society. In 1951, the United States passed the Invention Secrecy Act. This allows the U.S. government to keep certain technologies and inventions secret, legally. If they decide something threatens the country's economy or security, it's stamped with a secrecy order and classified. The inventor can't speak about it, export it, or sell it unless it's to the U.S. military.
Yeah, of course.
If the inventor violates these orders, they face imprisonment or, as we're about to see, consequences that are even worse. In the 1970s, Tom Ogle accidentally discovered a way to make an engine run on its own fumes.
I was messing around with a lawnmower when I accidentally knocked a hole in its fuel tank. I put a vacuum line running from the tank straight into the carburetor inlet. I just let it run, and it kept running and running, but the fuel level stayed the same. I got excited. The lawnmower was running without a carburetor and was getting tremendous efficiency.
That mower ran for 96 straight hours.
Whoa!
After a few months of trial and error, Ogle replicated his invention with his own car. His 1970 Ford Galaxy got 11 miles per gallon. But after a few modifications, it got 100 miles per gallon. In April 1977, Ogle drove the 4,000-pound car 205 miles on just 2 gallons of gas. Engineers inspected the car for hidden gas tanks and other gimmicks, but nothing was found. His technology worked. Ogle made the internal combustion engine do what it was designed to do, operate on fumes. He accidentally invented a version of Pogue's carburetor. Almost overnight, 24-year-old Tom Ogle became an engineering sensation. Oil companies, investors, and businessmen approached him with offers. People expected him to become a billionaire. Shell Oil offered him $25 million cash for the design. Ogle passed when he found out they intended to hide the invention forever.
I've always wanted to be rich, and I suspect I will be when this system gets into distribution, but I'm not going to have my system bought up and put on the shelf.
So Tom struck deals with investors who would let him control the invention and keep working. He filed for and received a patent. He had attorneys, money, all kinds of resources. Then the United States Air Force showed interest.
Uh-oh.
And that's when things went downhill.
Downhill, huh?
Yep. Suddenly, the SEC was after him for violating securities laws. The IRS was after him for failing to pay back taxes. The next few months were a mess. Ogle's wife left him and took their daughter. Legal battles were everywhere. Investors were fighting for control of the patent. Then, on April 14th, 1978, Ogle was shot by a stranger outside a bar. No suspect. But he survived.
But not for long?
No, not for long. On August 18th, he went to a friend's apartment where he collapsed and died. His death, which involved painkillers and alcohol, was ruled an accidental overdose, though Tom Ogle had no history of drug use. Ogle's friends, family, and attorney claimed this was a cover-up for murder. But the damage was done. Tom Ogle was gone, and his invention, despite the overwhelming evidence that it worked, was conveniently forgotten. Later that year, the U.S. and Saudi Arabia negotiated the United States-Saudi Arabian Joint Commission on Economic Cooperation. They agreed to use U.S. dollars for oil contracts. The petrodollar became the de facto currency of the world that day. This made the U.S. government much more powerful and made oil companies richer than ever. A few years later, Lieutenant Colonel Charles Brown, a former member of Project Blue Book, made a similar invention. He created a device that attached to the air intake of a vehicle, reducing emissions by 50 to 70% and increasing miles per gallon.
I treat air, and out of air, I make it more than just providing oxygen for the combustion process. There are combustion-stimulating molecules and radicals generated in this process. Thunderstorm in a bottle.
Now, even though the Colonel's invention reduced emissions and cleaned the air, the EPA shut him down.
Environmental Protection Agency is a bit of a dictatorial police agency. They call themselves a protecting agency, but they are a police agency. EPA cannot approve a fuel-saving device. They put out reams of documentation stating that something will not work.
Soon after, he received bomb threats. His lab was vandalized and everything was stolen. He lost his life savings and his work was stopped. Like Charles Pogue and Tom Ogle, Colonel Brown took his technology to his grave. These inventions still used gasoline and oil. They didn't necessarily threaten the fossil fuel industry, yet the government, or someone, still shut them down. So you can only imagine what happens when you invent a car that doesn't need gas at all.
Top our news here at 6 o'clock, an age-old dream becoming a reality. A local inventor has discovered a way, hear this, to use water to run your car.
The answer to dependence on foreign oil lies all around us.
A car that runs on water instead of gasoline.
The man who invented an engine that can run on water.
Any kind of H2O, he says, can power just about every type of engine.
He's come up with a device that will hook up to any engine and allow it to run on good old H2O.
Stanley Meyer.
He's been offered $1 billion in cash by oil-producing countries to sell his patent. So far, he hasn't sold.
Stanley Meyer did not keep his invention secret. He went straight to the news. His announcement made headlines across the country and around the world. He had invented a car that can run on nothing but water. The technology is called electrolysis. This is using electricity to split water into oxygen and hydrogen gas. Now, this isn't a new invention. In 1789, Jan Rudolph Diamond used an electrostatic machine to generate electricity from water that was then discharged to gold electrodes. And throughout the 19th century, various inventors and scientists created machines that could split water into oxygen and hydrogen. But there are a few problems. The process requires a lot of energy, and it requires perfectly pure water. No minerals, no chemicals, nothing. It has to be nothing but H2O. It's very hard to produce pure water. Not only do you need pure water for electrolysis, you need lots of it. Stanley Meyer's engine didn't require much water at all. Stan estimated that if he took his water-powered car from coast to coast in the US, it would use only 22 gallons of water. And the biggest breakthrough, it didn't need pure water. It could run on ordinary tap water. He called his invention a water fuel cell injector. The injector breaks water molecules into oxygen and hydrogen. The engine runs on hydrogen gas. He took his car on tour around the country. Engineers inspected it and they said it worked.
We recently took a scientific delegation to witness Stan's work, to really evaluate it, and came back saying, this is one of the most important inventions of the century.
Stan's tour got a lot of media coverage. This led to offers from investors and oil companies and even the Pentagon.
Pentagon? Let me guess. That's when things went downhill.
Yup.
Oh, no.
In 1998, Stan was at a restaurant with his brother and a few Belgian investors. They were about to sign a multi-million-dollar deal, so they raised their glasses and made a toast to celebrate. Then Stan suddenly became violently ill. He ran out of the restaurant, fell down in the street, and started vomiting. His brother ran after him. Stan's final words were, "They poisoned me." But his death certificate doesn't reflect that at all. It says he was at lunch with officials from NATO and that he died of a brain aneurysm.
But if you read this statement, you can kind of tell that the coroner was already questioning whether he was actually poisoned or not, and just dismissed being poisoned as such a blatant lie and not true. I think a brain aneurysm is a very convenient way for somebody to die, and if they were poisoned, that can cause that.
Now, lots of people have heard of Stanley Meyer's water car, but what most people don't know is that the water-powered engine wasn't the only disruptive invention in Stan's garage. He also had a toroid-shaped...
Donut-shaped.
He had a donut-shaped electromagnetic device slapped with a national security order.
Even in my prior development of high technology, I've had patents taken from me. I learned from the School of Hard Knocks to be very cautious.
He was paranoid, and rightfully so. And that's why if you try to replicate the technology in Stan Meyer's patent, it won't work. He faked the voltage and frequency numbers to prevent another invention from being stolen or classified. But skeptics say it doesn't matter what numbers you use, the engine won't work. They say Stan's technology broke the second law of thermodynamics. That states that every time you transfer energy, energy is wasted. Stan's engine didn't waste energy at all, it created it. But that also violates the first law of thermodynamics, the conservation of energy. That states that energy cannot be created or destroyed. But what if those laws are completely misunderstood? That with the right technology, the laws of thermodynamics don't have to apply at all. Mainstream science doesn't like that idea.
Mainstream science can go pound.
Well, it turns out that Stan's water car was his least important invention. That donut-shaped device was another invention that created energy. And the reason it was classified? Well, it didn't run on gas. It didn't run on water. It ran on nothing. The vacuum of space is supposed to be empty, and at the temperature of absolute zero, it should be perfectly still. But quantum physicists discovered that empty space is not empty or still at all.
Is that so-called empty space isn't really empty at all. It's actually full of energy. So instead of being like kind of a quiet, empty lake, it's more like the froth at the base of a waterfall or something.
Now, we've all been taught that in an atom, electrons orbit the nucleus like planets orbit the sun. And in a vacuum with no resistance, the orbits of electrons should be predictable, but they're not. In 1955, Willis Lamb won the Nobel Prize for discovering what's become known as the Lamb shift. Now, in simple terms, Lamb discovered that electrons in hydrogen atoms were being disturbed by something. He discovered complex interactions between the electron and the vacuum of space itself. Space is teeming with quantum particles that blink in and out of existence. And when they do that, they use and create energy. A lot of it.
Well, when you go to look at the numbers, you find out that there's enough energy in the volume of a coffee cup to, say, evaporate all the world's oceans if you could get it all of it.
Enough energy to boil and evaporate all the oceans on Earth from a coffee cup of empty space. This energy is called zero-point energy. And it's generated from the zero-point field. Nikola Tesla, Nikolai Kozyrev, and other scientists call this field the ether. The ether is a field in which everything exists, but it exists in a dimension that our brains can't perceive. Particles blinking in and out of existence have to be coming from and going somewhere. That place is the ether, the base layer of reality. But even though we can't see it, this layer can be disrupted with electromagnetism. Tesla famously said, if you want to find the secrets of the universe, think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration. He tried to harness energy from the zero-point field using the tower he built on Long Island.
Tesla link below.
Now, Tesla's Wardenclyffe Tower tapped into this endless supply of energy. The tower was considered an over-unity device. An over-unity is when something gives out more energy than is put in. Now, mainstream science claims this is impossible, again because it breaks the second law of thermodynamics. But for over 100 years, scientists and inventors have proved that claim wrong. Zero-point energy devices also violate the conservation of energy, that energy can't be created or destroyed. But those inventors don't claim to be creating energy from nothing. They are tapping into the energy that already exists everywhere all around us. In the 1970s, Howard Johnson created the magnetron motor. It used hydrogen, magnets, light rays, and fusion to create electricity. Now, according to practical physics, his invention was impossible. But here's the thing. His motor worked, and he proved it over and over again. Still, he was denied a patent.
The dilemma facing Johnson is not really his dilemma, but rather that of other scientists who have observed his prototypes. The devices obviously do work, but the textbooks say they shouldn't. Johnson is saying to the scientific community that this is a phenomenon that seems to contradict some of our traditional beliefs. For all our sakes, let's not dismiss it outright, but take the time to understand the complex forces at work here.
Johnson didn't get his patent and was shunned by the scientific community. Now, Howard Johnson wasn't a weekend garage tinkerer. He was a government contractor. He worked on atomic energy projects. He made equipment for the military. He already had over 30 patents for chemistry and physics devices.
Science and physicists are especially determined to protect the law of conservation of energy. Thus, the physicists become game wardens who tell us what laws we can't violate. In this case, they don't even know what the game is, but they are so scared.
Johnson's motor would lose less than 2% efficiency in almost 20 years of continuous operation. But he stopped working when someone broke into his shop and stole his equipment. He got the message. Thomas Murray also invented a device that could tap into the zero-point field. His machine could generate 50,000 watts of power with no energy input, another invention that broke the laws of physics. Murray tried to patent his invention. He was denied. They told him there's no such thing as free energy. But still, the US government was interested.
Yeah, and that's when things go downhill?
Yep.
Uh-huh.
His lab was vandalized and robbed. He and his family survived multiple assassination attempts. It got so bad, he bulletproofed his own car. Now, despite the ongoing threats, Murray publicly demonstrated the success of his machine in 1940. It continuously produced an output of 250,000 volts with no input. Well, that was the last straw. The next day, someone broke into his lab and attacked him. He only survived because at this point, he was carrying a pistol everywhere, but it didn't matter. Murray's assistant turned on him and destroyed everything. Equipment that would be worth millions today. Officially, Murray's assistant went crazy, but it sounds like somebody got to him. Murray died broke, and he took his technology to the grave. Edwin Gray had a similar story. Gray created an electromagnetic motor that ran continuously on its own power. And like all zero-point devices, it didn't generate heat. The input was 26.8 watts. The output over 7,000 watts. Gray's machine was tested and verified by multiple scientists.
Gray started developing this idea 8 years ago. For the past year and a half, he's been trying to get someone in the U.S. government interested. So far, he's had little luck.
After he contacted the government, let me see. Things went downhill, right?
Yep.
Uh-huh.
Within a week, local authorities performed an illegal raid on Gray's lab. They confiscated everything. Not long after that, Gray was found dead in his home. All his records, inventions, and materials vanished without a trace. Now, most of these inventions were from the turn of the 20th century, over 100 years ago. Imagine the progress we could have made if this technology survived and the world had free energy this whole time. But that's the thing. These stories happened so long ago that it's difficult to picture them as anything more than stories. I know you want to see video of one of these things operating. You want to see light bulbs and motors turning without wires and without plugs. You want to see one of these zero-point machines for yourself, don't you? You got it. Floyd Sweet was nicknamed Sparky because he was fascinated with electricity. He dreamed of a device that could take energy from the vacuum of space. So after retiring in the 1980s, he made one. He called it a vacuum triode amplifier, or VTA.
So we have a 120-volt fan. As you can see, it's turning at good power. It is providing quite a breeze, and it's real, usable power.
Sparky's machine could do more than operate a fan. He fed it 0.3 milliwatts and produced almost 224,000 watts. This was continuous on-demand power. If you attach more equipment, it would simply harness more power. No limit.
And here, just coming into view, you see 5 100-watt lamps, ordinary garden variety household lamps, brilliantly lit. So there's 500 watts of very real power here, again coming right out of the vacuum.
224,000 watts from a box about the size of a deck of cards. That's enough to power your house, recharge your electric car, or light up a baseball field. It doesn't matter what you connect. The 0-point field will give you all the power you need.
This is real, usable power. It's stable. It is not transient. It is not noise. And it is not any other kind of spurious effect. This is a real effect. It's all coming from that little tiny box sitting behind the 500 watts of power. Behind the lamps, that little box is putting out all of that power, well over 500 watts, and yet it is receiving less than 1/3 of a milliwatt of input power.
So Sparky filed a patent.
Yeah-oh.
Yep, you know how this goes. Well, at the grocery store, a well-dressed man approached Sparky and showed him a photograph. It was a picture of Sparky and his wife in their house, taken from outside. Someone had been watching them.
He walked me all the way to my building, telling me what would happen to me if I didn't stop my research. How they took that picture through my window, I'll never know.
Sparky reported the incident to the FBI.
Oh, that's like the hens calling the wolf for help.
It was. Things got worse. Sparky and his wife started getting harassed. Their phone rang hundreds of times a day from payphones all over the country. The call stopped when someone broke into Sparky's lab and stole his notes. Then, one night, 2 men stopped by to speak to Sparky and his wife. The men left, and about an hour later, Sparky collapsed. Frantic, his wife called an ambulance, but when they loaded Sparky, they refused to let his wife in the ambulance. 20 minutes later, she got a call. Sparky was dead. Heart attack. Less than 24 hours later, a few black vans showed up at the house. The FBI confiscated all Sparky's equipment and research, and that's the last we've heard about it. But Sparky's VTA did more than create unlimited power. It could levitate. A retired Army officer and nuclear physicist named Tom Bearden met with Sparky. He was intrigued by the VTA's potential. Bearden asked Sparky to do an anti-gravity experiment with it, and it worked. The VTA weighed about 6 pounds. They reduced the weight of it by 90%. According to Bearden's theory, gravity can become a pushing force rather than a pulling force, and that's exactly what the VTA did. 0-point energy, anti-gravity. Now, if this sounds like UFO technology, that's because it is. Richard Doty says 0-point energy devices have been recovered from UFOs, and they operate a lot like Sparky's VTA.
What this was an energy device that used 0-point energy. That's what they referred it to as 0-point energy. And it was connected in such a manner that this device could power, from a very small flashlight or a very small watch up to a city. And the power was determined by what the demand on it was. So each craft had one of these.
Anti-gravity technology is another reality that's been suppressed for years. And researching anti-gravity, even for the US government, is very, very dangerous. According to multiple inventors, many of which are now dead, alien technology might not be so alien after all. Italian researcher Johnny Dotto created a large ring to go around the human body. Its purpose was to alter DNA to reverse aging. Now, made of heavy copper, the Dotto ring ring manipulates the magnetic field around a human body using gravity and frequency. It was inspired by the Hunza Valley in Pakistan, where people rarely get sick and routinely live for over 100 years. Now, most researchers say their longevity is because of exercise and a healthy diet, but Dotto had a different theory. He said the extreme heat from the valley and the cold from the nearby glacier created a magnetic anomaly in the area. This protects DNA and slows the aging process. The Dotto ring was even tested at Sloan Kettering Hospital. It successfully lengthened the subject's telomeres, the part of our DNA that shortens as we age. The ring worked. And just like Sparky's device, Dotto's device could levitate. Then the FDA became involved.
And everything went downhill.
Yep, they shut down Dotto's research. Not long after that, Dotto was hit by a car that ran over him multiple times. The levitating, age-reversing Dotto ring vanished. T. Townsend Brown used a high-voltage and electromagnetic field to create a lift effect. This allowed an object to move at high speeds, free of the force of gravity. Brown made a flying saucer.
As with many other promising inventions developed during the Cold War years, the National Secrecy Act prevented scientists like T. Townsend Brown from commercializing or even publicizing any technology which could potentially be interpreted as having a military application.
Now, anti-gravity or anti-gravitic technology was popular in the 1950s. The United States and Canadian governments were both working on anti-gravitic technology. They farmed this work out to well-known aerospace companies like Lockheed Martin, Convair, Bell, and Lear. The research was actually out in the open and created a buzz. People were excited about the new G engines and how this technology would revolutionize traveling. They talked about how everyone could have a flying car. Airplanes wouldn't need any fuel to fly. This is one of the last public mentions of anti-gravity technology.
Lawrence D. Bell, the famous builder of the rocket research plane, says, "We're already working with nuclear fuels and equipment to cancel out gravity." And William Lear, the autopilot wizard, is already figuring out gravity control for the weightless craft to come. According to the gravity research engineers, the G engine will replace all other motors.
After that, everything went dark. So what happened? What happened was the military contractors got anti-gravity to work, and they wanted the technology all to themselves. After working at the Center for Space Plasma and Aeronomic Research, Dr. Ning Li started her own anti-gravity research company, AC Gravity. In the early 1990s, she published research papers on anti-gravity. This drew attention from the U.S. government.
And then everything went downhill.
Yep. In 2001, Ning Li received a grant from the U.S. Department of Defense for over $400,000 to continue anti-gravitic research. Then, Ning Li disappeared. Now, some people think she returned to China to work for them, but others say she was caught up with her work at the DoD. Some family members recall that she seemed extremely stressed during that time. She used to love her research, but she did not like working for the DoD. But in 2014, 13 years later, Ning Li reappeared out of nowhere.
I didn't see that coming.
And then she was hit by a car.
That I saw coming.
She suffered permanent brain damage. Ning Li's whereabouts during those missing years is still a mystery. But my guess is the Department of Defense knows exactly where she was. But they'll never tell, and nobody's gonna ask. Free, clean, unlimited energy, anti-gravity, science fiction technology that some people claim is real. But is it? Well, search Google and Wikipedia, and they'll list most of these inventors as charlatans, liars, and frauds.
Of course, that's what they say. They're in the pocket of the shadow government.
I can't argue with that. So let's go through a few. Stan Meyer, the man who invented the water-powered car, receives a lot of scrutiny, probably because his story is so well known. Now, despite his claim of being poisoned, doctors said his cause of death was a brain aneurysm. Now, some poisons can cause an aneurysm, but his toxicology report showed no poison.
Fake report.
Well, his family thought so. Moray, Gray, Sparky, Ogle, and Johnson, they all had patented inventions that garnered the attention of powerful people, and they were all victims of violence. Some of them were no-name backyard inventors who happened to be good at electronics, but many were engineers or physicists with impressive credentials, and there's a lot of evidence to support their stories. Honestly, I covered just the most well-known inventors. There are many, many more. And most of them also died under mysterious circumstances. And in almost every case, their technology was seized and classified. Now, despite the evidence of these inventions working and the reality of quantum physics, there's a tremendous amount of pushback about zero-point or alternate energy. Why? Mainstream academia, elected officials, and even the media say free energy is impossible. Any scientist who claims otherwise is attacked, sometimes professionally, but sometimes they're attacked physically. Why?
Money and power.
I was asking rhetorically, but yes, money and power. When Dr. Tom Falone was working at the U.S. Patent Office, he came across inventions that could solve our energy and pollution problems. Inventions that could literally change the world and accelerate the progress of humanity. He became frustrated when he saw invention after invention slapped with a secrecy order.
Patent sequestering, which is actually called secretizing, public needs to know at least that every major military agency has a representative at the patent office.
And when Falone blew the whistle, they fired him.
Just fired? I'm surprised this guy didn't get whacked.
Oh yeah, he better be watching his back.
Patent Office in its current approach is it's actually breaking the law. It's trying to make happy the physicists who are with American Physical Society to keep them in power with their ideas, you might say, and withhold from public use good inventions that could solve our problems, like the energy crisis.
For over 100 years, these technologies have been suppressed, keeping society in a state of complacency, poverty, and pollution. The Federation of American Scientists spoke about suppression in 2010, calculating that in that year alone, 5,135 inventions were given a secrecy order. Most of these patents had to do with clean energy, anti-gravity, and alternative methods of propulsion. Over 5,000 in 1 year. So how many in 10 years? How many in 100? What technology is being hidden from us? The latest buzz phrase is green energy, or the green movement. That sounds nice. We all want a clean environment. But green energy, as currently defined, is a fad. No, that's not the right word. Green energy is a scam. Why suppress thousands, maybe tens of thousands of inventions that could clean our planet and provide free energy for everyone on Earth?
For money and power.
Yep. There are literally hundreds of trillions of dollars at stake. So next time you're arguing with a friend or family member about climate change, remember the energy industry and the United States government want you to hate each other. Don't play into their hands. A declassified document made in the 1970s lists categories of inventions that are considered secret. One of those categories is for energy systems that are more than 70 to 80% efficient, and solar panels that are more than 20% efficient. If you patent an efficient energy or propulsion device, it gets slapped with a secrecy order. Do you want proof? In 1971, over 50 years ago, someone patented a solar panel that was 20% efficient. It was made secret. You could have had solar panels on your house for years, but you never knew they existed. Today, solar panels are only slightly better than 20% efficient. Imagine how much they could have improved if the technology had not been hidden for 40 years. So what about green energy? It's a scam. Green energy is not designed to do anything but line the pockets of politicians and the CEOs of the green energy companies that get billions of dollars of your money in the form of subsidies to research things like solar panels and wind farms. And by the way, solar panels only last about 15 to 20 years. Then they go into a landfill to decay, and that material is toxic.
Solar panels also produce tons of toxic waste. But even if we reduce this waste during manufacturing, solar panels eventually stop working, especially if they're poorly made in China. And when their lifespan is over, they leave behind toxic trash.
Then it seeps into our water supply. Scam. Wind farms barely produce any power, but they destroy the landscape, kill wildlife, and again, require an enormous amount of fossil fuels to build. Scam. Nuclear energy sounds great, no pollution. But when the nuclear material is discarded, it stays radioactive and deadly for thousands of years. Scam. Do you think your electric car is protecting the environment? It's actually making it worse. Over 80% of electricity comes from coal, oil, and natural gas. So yeah, your Tesla runs on coal. Scam. The amount of fossil fuels used to extract the raw materials to build electric cars causes a lot of pollution. And the lithium batteries that power them? Lithium mines are awful for the environment. Not to mention most of the extraction of these materials is done with slave labor in terrible working conditions. Scam. Now, don't get defensive. This isn't your fault. The technology to fix this is there and has been for 100 years. So, do all these patents just sit on a shelf gathering dust, never to see the light of day? Oh no. A scientist named Salvatore Paese has multiple patents strikingly similar to allegedly impossible inventions. He's patented devices that use electromagnetic fields, vibrations, and quantum field fluctuations to manipulate gravity, mass, and energy. He has a patent that allows for faster than light speed travel. He has a patent that can change the course of asteroids through a magnetic field. And my favorite Salvatore Paese invention? He has a patent for a tiny solid-state device about the size of a deck of cards that can generate unlimited clean energy from the vacuum. So how come his inventions aren't suppressed? Well, because the patents are owned by or have been assigned to the United States Navy. Now, I'm sure that most clean energy anti-gravity inventors are frauds, but not all of them. I believe the technology does exist, and I believe it's being used right now by government contractors. However, these contractors don't work for the U.S. government. They work for the shadow government.
A shadowy government with its own Air Force, its own Navy, its own fundraising mechanism, and the ability to pursue its own ideas of the national interest, free from all checks and balances, and free from the law itself.
We have the technology to eliminate famine and heal the ecosystem, but that would derail the shadow government's agenda.
There is the government, constitutional government of the United States. And then there's this other secret government operation, which has more money, more power, more technology. It is a criminal enterprise. It is not sanctioned by the president, and it is not sanctioned by Congress. And yet they're using our tax dollars and are raping the planet and destroying the earth and impoverishing half the planet.
We could live in a world of abundance. No more wars for energy. But the shadow government becomes powerless in a world of abundance. They derive their power from scarcity because they control the resources. Resources that could be made completely free if we only had access to suppressed technology. So what's the solution? Elect new leaders? No. Our leaders are controlled by or in fear of the shadow government. They only care about being reelected and getting rich. All of them. And don't go to the media. They're in the pocket of the shadow government, whether they know it or not. So do we repeal the Invention Secrecy Act? Well, that will never happen. Nobody will risk their career voting for it. They'll say some inventions need to be hidden for national security. And whenever you hear that phrase, national security, remember, it's not your security they're protecting, it's theirs. The solution is simple, but it's not one inventors want to hear. If you create a free energy device that you can prove works, do not patent it. Publish your invention anonymously on the internet and make it freely available to everyone. Don't be foolish and think you can use the patent system to become rich. They will not allow it, and most likely, they'll kill you. Instead, share your technology first. You can change the world. I promise the money will be there. So to all you weekend tinkerers and free energy hobbyists, keep tinkering and keep inventing. But most of all, keep quiet. Thank you so much for hanging out today. My name is AJ, that's Hacklefish.
What's shaking, crispy bacon?
This has been the Y-Files. If you had fun or learned anything, do him a favor, subscribe, like, comment, share. That stuff really makes him happy, and it helps the channel. Now, like most topics we cover here, today's was recommended by you. So if there's a story you'd like to see or learn more about, go to theyfiles.com/tips. Remember, the Y-Files is also a podcast. Twice a week, I post deep dives into the stories we cover here on the channel. I also post stories that wouldn't be allowed on the channel. Those are called unredacted. The podcast is called The Y-Files Operation Podcast, and it's available everywhere you get your podcasts. Now, if you need more Y-Files in your life, and who doesn't? Actually, some people don't. But if you do, check out our Discord server. There are tens of thousands of people on there 24/7, and they're into the same weird stuff we are. It's a great community, it's a lot of fun, and it's free to join. Now, if you want to know what's going on with the Y-Files, check out our production calendar. It's at yfiles.com/cal, and there we post our episode schedule, upcoming podcasts, live streams, meetups, everything. Now, special thanks to our patrons who make this channel possible. Every episode of the Y-Files is dedicated to our Patreon members. I don't deserve your support, but I'm so grateful for it. Every episode is dedicated to you. If you'd like to support the channel, consider becoming a member on Patreon. For as little as $3 a month, you get access to perks like videos early with no commercials, access to merch only available to members, plus you get 2 private live streams every week just for you. My camera's on, your camera's on, you can talk directly to me. It's a lot of fun. Another great way to support the channel is grab something from the Y-File store.
I grab a Hacklefish t-shirt with my face on it, or a festival coffee mug that you can fill with a delicious beverage, perhaps one that's carbonated, or a hoodie with my face on it, or one of these squeezy stuffed animal Hacklefish talking heckle. I can't even pronounce my own name during the plugs. Hacklefish talking fish toys.
Those are the plugs, and that's gonna do it. Until next time, be safe, be kind, and know that you are appreciated.
I played Polybius in Area 51. A secret code inside the Bible said I would. I love my UFOs and paranormal fun, as well as music, so I'm singing it like I should. But then another conspiracy theory becomes the truth, my friends, and it never ends. No, it never ends. I fear the crap cat and got stuck inside Mel's hole with MK Ultra. Of being only too aware. Did Stanley Kubrick fake the moon landing alone on a film set, or were the shadow people there? The Roswell aliens just fought the smiling man, I'm told, and his name was Cold. And I can't believe I'm dancing with the fish. Hacklefish on Thursday nights with AJ2, and the Wi-Fi's helping me all through the night. All I ever wanted was to just hear the truth, so the Wi-Fi's on repeat all through the night. The Mothman sightings and the solar storm still come to Agatha, the secret city underground. Mysterious numbers missions, Planet Serpo 2, Project Stargate, and what the Dark Watchers found. We're in a simulation, don't you worry though. The Black Knight satellite, it told me so. I can't believe I'm dancing with the fish. Hecklefish on Thursday nights, Wednesday J2, and Wi-Fi's on repeat all through the night. All I ever wanted was to just hear the truth, so the Wi-Fi's on repeat all through the night. Hecklefish on Thursday nights, Wednesday J2, and Wi-Fi's on repeat all through the night. All I ever wanted was to just hear the truth, so the Wi-Fi's on repeat all through the Gertie loves to dance on the dance floor because she is a camel, and camels love to dance when the feeling is right, always in time. Gertie loves to dance. Gertie loves to dance.
The same age. In fact, she thought he might have even looked a few years younger. He said, "Madam, I am very old." And he went on to give her details of their meeting. And she was stunned and said, "That must make you over 100 years old." The Count smiled and said, "This is not impossible." Soon after that, word reached King Louis, who found the stories entertaining, but didn't give it much thought. But when the king learned that the Count had a process for removing the flaws from gems and turning lead into gold, the king said, "Bring this man to me at once." The Count of Saint Germain accepted the king's invitation and immediately left for the palace at Versailles. When the Count of Saint Germain arrived at the royal palace in Versailles, he was an instant sensation. Casanova himself wrote about their first meeting. He said the Count of Saint Germain was a scholar, linguist, musician, and chemist, and as a conversationalist was unequaled. And Casanova noted the Count never ate. He would sip mineral water and occasionally drink herbal tea, but he never saw him consume food of any kind.
He's a vampire.
Well, that's one of the theories. The Count had traveled to the palace with an assortment of equipment and substances that he used for his alchemy experiments. He created makeup and special face wash for the ladies of the court, which they swore made them look years younger. And he told the king of a process he invented for colors and dyes that would increase the value of French fabrics. But the king wasn't interested in fabric. He wanted to know about the Count's abilities with precious stones. The Count said he had just spent 5 years with the Shah of Persia, who taught him an ancient and closely guarded technique for removing flaws from diamonds, and even creating larger diamonds by melting smaller ones together. Now, the king was skeptical at this claim, to which the Count replied, "Your Majesty, I have witnessed Christ turn water into wine. Diamonds are a mere trifle." The king proposed a test. King Louis had a diamond that was valued at 6,000 francs, but without its flaw, it would be worth 10,000 francs or more. The Count said he could remove the flaw in a month. A month later, he returned with the diamond, flawless. King Louis's jeweler examined it and valued the stone at 9,600 francs. The king was impressed and set the Count up with his own laboratory right there in the palace. The Count of Saint Germain became a fixture at Versailles. For the next couple of years, the Count worked all day in his private lab and spent all night dazzling the king's guests. But one day, the king went to pay the Count a visit, and once again, the Count of Saint Germain was gone. Throughout the 18th century, the Count of Saint-Germain would pop up all over the world. He was seen by Sir Robert Clive in India. He was at The Hague trying to broker peace between Prussia and Austria. Anton Mesmer, namesake of the word mesmerize, received the Count when Mesmer was a young physicist in Germany. He said Saint-Germain possessed a vast understanding of the workings of the human mind and had been directly responsible for teaching Mesmer the art of hypnosis. Some say this was how the Count was able to talk his way out of the English prison.
Jedi mind trick?
Yup.
I'm not the Count you're looking for.
You're not the Count we're looking for.
Move along.
Move along.
Move along.
Move along. The Count was in Russia and helped bring Catherine the Great to the throne. He was in Holland attempting to end the 7 Years' War. He met up with Casanova again in the north of France, where he, according to Casanova's own memoirs, turned a pocket coin into gold. In all of these accounts, Saint-Germain appears 45 years old. After the death of Louis XV, the Count of Saint-Germain suddenly reappeared at Versailles, and he warned King Louis XVI and Marie Antoinette of the coming revolution. He said a giant conspiracy would disrupt the entire nation, and the king was in danger. Now, the royal couple dismissed him, but in her memoirs, Marie Antoinette wrote that she wished she had taken the Count more seriously. In the summer of 1776, the Second Continental Congress gathered in Philadelphia to sign the Declaration of Independence. But the meeting wasn't going smoothly. Some delegates feared war with England, the most powerful country on the planet. Then, just as talks were breaking down, a voice thundered from the back of the room and gave a rousing speech about courage, commitment, and freedom. Inspired by these words, the delegates immediately rushed forward. John Hancock had barely finished signing when another took up his quill. America would be free. When the men looked up to thank this gentleman, he was gone. His name was never recorded, and though the room was locked and guarded, he was able to enter and leave without anyone seeing him. All that's known is that he was a man of average height and build, dressed all in black, who appeared about 45 years old. In 1779, Saint-Germain befriended Prince Charles of Germany and spent the next 5 years as a guest in the prince's castle. Then, on February 27, 1784, the Count of Saint-Germain died of pneumonia. He was laid to rest at a local church, and his funeral service was attended by many of the people whose lives the Count had affected.
Oh, that's it?
But in 1785, a year after his death, the Count of Saint-Germain had returned. In 1785, a year after the Count of Saint-Germain supposedly died, he was seen once again with Anton Mesmer in Germany. Later that year, the French Freemasons had chosen as their representative the Count of Saint-Germain. He was seen at the taking of the Bastille in 1789 and at the execution of Marie Antoinette. Almost 40 years later, the Count was seen in Paris several times by Mademoiselle d'Adhemar, who had known him from years before. She wrote in her diary that she was amazed that every time she saw him, he still looked 45 years old. In 1870, Emperor Napoleon III was so fascinated by the Count that he created a special commission to investigate him. A year later, a mysterious fire destroyed all the records they'd gathered.
Suspicious.
It is. In 1877, Saint-Germain was seen again at a Freemason lodge in Venice. In 1896, Theosophists Annie Besant and Madame Blavatsky said the Count had been in contact with them. He claimed to be of an immortal race who come from a civilization hidden beneath the Himalayas.
What's a theosophist?
Well, Theosophy is a religion that claims there's an ancient and secretive brotherhood of spiritual beings known as the Masters, and these Masters are said to have great wisdom and supernatural powers.
Checks out.
In 1914, during World War I, the Count was captured by 2 Bavarian soldiers. They said he spoke many languages and wouldn't tell them where he was from. But he did say the war would end in 1918. The soldiers thought he was crazy, but they let the man ramble. The Count said that a tyrant from the lower classes would wear an ancient symbol and lead Germany into another global war in 1939, and that Germany would be defeated in 6 years, but not before committing unspeakable acts of violence. The soldiers were so unsettled by the strange man that they let him go.
I'm not the Count you're looking for.
Right. In 1930, Guy Ballard met the Count of Saint-Germain on Mount Shasta in California, and Ballard claimed Saint-Germain was one of several ascended masters like Jesus Christ. And Ballard formed an entire religion called the I Am Activity movement around Saint-Germain's teachings. At one point, the I Am religion had over 1 million members, and it still exists today. And there are many other sightings of the Count throughout history, but these are the most well-known and best documented. So that leaves us to 2 big questions. First, was the Count of Saint-Germain a real person? Well, he most definitely was. There's no debate about it. But was he immortal? Well, we'll address that in part 2.
Wait, what? You're not gonna tell us now?
Nope.
That's a bunch of bullshit.
I have a reason for doing this. In part 2, we'll see if we can separate the myths from the facts and figure out who the Count of Saint Germain really was.
I still say bullshit.
3 + 1 5 + 0 0.
In part 1, we talked about the mysterious Count of Saint Germain. He's been called a prophet, a sorcerer, and an immortal. He's been spotted all over the world for 1,000 years. Some say, and even the Count himself said, that he was Cartaphilus, the legendary wandering Jew cursed by Jesus with immortality. The Count of Saint Germain advised kings, queens, and emperors. He was present at every significant event in European history, and even was an important contributor to America's struggle for independence. He spoke a dozen languages fluently. He played piano and violin like a virtuoso. He was an expert in art, science, politics, philosophy, and history. He left an impression on everyone he met. But today, we'll see if we can separate the man from the myth. In paranormal history, there isn't a more fascinating figure than the Count of Saint Germain, and there are countless stories about him spanning hundreds of years. But how many of these stories are true? Every story about the Count has him fluent in a dozen languages, and speaks so well that he fools native speakers. This isn't accurate. In historical records, the first we hear about Saint Germain is his arrest in 1745 for being a spy. But the quote is never printed in full. When English authorities arrested Saint Germain, they said he spoke Spanish and Portuguese like a native speaker, and he was fluent in Italian and spoke French with a Piedmont accent. He spoke in broken English, enough to get by, but nowhere near fluent. They assumed he was from Spain or Portugal. Now, it is true that King Louis was very taken with him, but King Louis was not a deep thinker. The king's chief advisors considered Saint Germain an arrogant imposter, and the king's doctor said he was a quack. And the Count disappeared from France for several years, not because of some spiritual mission, but because the king's chief minister ordered his arrest, so he fled the country. When Saint Germain turned Casanova's coin into gold, it wasn't through a chemical process, it was sleight of hand, something that irritated Casanova. And Casanova met him a few times and said he was brilliant, but Casanova also said the Count was a con man, a spy, or both. When Saint Germain fixed the king's diamond, the diamond the Count brought back was of a different cut and slightly larger. Saint Germain said the diamond becoming larger was part of the process.
He had an answer for everything.
Everything. Madame Pompadour, the king's chief mistress, was very familiar with precious stones, and she looked through a box of the Count's gems, laughed, and said they were fake. She did say they were very pretty, but still fake. Now, yes, Voltaire did say that the Count of Saint Germain is the man who knows everything and never dies. I've seen this quoted a million times. But what's rarely said is, Voltaire was being sarcastic. He was pretty much saying, oh yeah, that guy. Now, the story about the Countess who recognizes him from 50 years ago, that happened, but the entire story isn't often told. The Countess, who was almost 90, was senile, and everybody knew this. Even Saint Germain said so. When the Countess thought she met Saint Germain years earlier, she simply made a mistake and set a legend in motion.
Oh, what about him meeting Jesus and all that?
Right. Those stories got started because an English comedian named Millard Gower started impersonating Saint Germain as part of his act. And every time Gower performed, the stories got crazier.
Wait, so this guy's a legend because some comic was doing a bit?
Yep. Remember, the Count's last stop was the castle of Prince Edward in Germany. Prince Edward said the Count of Saint Germain was a small, gray-haired, elderly man, not a chatty 45-year-old. And when Saint Germain died in 1784... Allegedly, his death was witnessed, and his belongings were meticulously documented. There were no diamonds, no elixirs, and the only money to his name was about 80 Reich dollars.
Ooh, how many millions is that?
It's about $100.
Oh.
When Theosophist Madame Blavatsky said she had Saint Germain's secret documents, she actually had a copy of a memoir written a few years earlier. And the memoir didn't contain mystical knowledge, just biographical information and stories about a charming man who was good at talking people's ears off. Eventually, Blavatsky was exposed as a fraud by a whistleblower in her movement. But plenty of occultists were fans of the Count. Look, maybe Guy Ballard really did meet Saint Germain on Mount Shasta. I don't know, I wasn't there. But I do know that Ballard plagiarized a lot of his material from science fiction books and was found guilty of fraud, so you be the judge.
So do we know who he really was?
Maybe. The The Count of Saint Germain is said to be from everywhere. Some say he was a high priest from Atlantis, or he was a prophet from the Middle East. He's said to be Merlin the Wizard, Plato, St. Alban, Christopher Columbus, one of the last Templar Knights. People claim that Roger Bacon was the Count. Then they claimed Francis Bacon was the Count.
Well, what about Kevin Bacon?
I wouldn't be surprised. Kevin Bacon's been around a long time. Now, on his deathbed, the Count of Saint Germain confessed that he was the son of Francis Rákóczi II, Prince of Transylvania, and he was 88 years old. To avoid being a political target, he was sent to Italy to study with the last of the Medicis. Now, this would explain his wealth, his excellent education, and why he spoke so many languages. But still, if this story were true, he would have been almost 70 years old when he was at Versailles, not 45. And his father, Prince Francis, would have been 15 years old when the Count was born. Not impossible, not likely. Another theory is that Saint Germain was an Alsatian Jew named Simon Wolf, born around 1700, and he hid his identity to avoid religious persecution. Others say he was a Spanish Jesuit named Aymar. His true title was the Marquis de Betmar from Portugal. This explains why his Spanish and Portuguese sounded so perfect. None other than P.T. Barnum took an interest in the Count and did his own research. And nobody knows a good scammer better than Barnum. Using Barnum's research and the research from other historians, I think the best theory is that Saint Germain was the son of an Italian princess. The princess had an illicit affair with an Italian tax collector. When the Count was a child, he was separated from his mother. He was given a world-class education, a lump sum of money, and instructions to hide his true identity. This theory suggests he was born around 1690 in a region of Italy called San Germano.
What does San Germano mean in English?
Saint Germain.
Yeah, I should have put that together myself.
San Germano is on the northern border of Italy and Switzerland. Directly to the west is France. And this region is called Piedmont. That so-called unidentifiable accent he spoke with, native speakers identified his accent as distinctly Piedmont, something that's been documented. And if he had been born in this area, he would have grown up speaking French, Italian, and German interchangeably. The jump to speaking Spanish and Portuguese from there isn't difficult. And if you're fluent in French and German, English would come pretty easily too. But still, these are just theories. Nobody except the Count himself knew his true origin. He enjoyed the mystery that surrounded him, so he fed into his own myth wherever he could. He was a legend, yes, but a legendary con man. He never stole from anyone, but he was perfectly happy to live rent-free in castles, palaces, and lavish apartments all over Europe. The Count was a brilliant man who used his charm and intellect to befriend wealthy, influential people to support his lifestyle. Eventually, his charm and money ran out, and he died virtually penniless. Even in the face of all this evidence, many people still believe he is an immortal who walks the earth to this day. I don't, but the legend of the Count of Saint Germain is such a good one, I want to be wrong. But I can tell you this for certain. If I'm ever sitting on a quiet mountain and approached by a mysterious man who claims to be the Count of Saint Germain, I'll be skeptical. But still, I'm going to listen to what that man has to say, because you never know. Next up is the story of John Teeter. Now, this is the time-traveling soldier from about 100 years in the future who has to come back to the past to get a computer component. He's part of, I don't want to spoil it, but he's apparently in the future, the military has a time-traveling unit, and John Teeter is a soldier in that unit. Now, this is a great story that we really owe to Art Bell. We owe the whole channel to Art Bell. I'm not ashamed to admit that. I'm a huge Art Bell fan. But if you had to rank the top 5 Art Bell stories, John Teeter would be on that list. This is a great one. Now, this is a long episode, so settle in.
With some ice cream, potato chips, pork rinds.
Well, this is episode 80, so I've lost about 20 pounds by now.
Oh, no, I like the chunky human.
Sorry.
He wasn't as cranky.
Well, pardon me for trying to be healthy.
See what I mean? Eat a donut and chill out. Jeez.
3 + 1 5 + 0 0.
This is our future. The United States of America endures a second civil war, killing millions. Immediately after that, a world war begins. Nuclear weapons are used. Billions are killed. The aftermath leaves the earth in ruins. Electric grids are down. Food becomes scarce. Disease is rampant. Society breaks down. Then in 2038, all computers go offline. Civilization is set back several hundred years. The world enters a second dark age. Only by changing events in our past and present can we avoid this nightmare of a future. In 1998, in a small town in Florida, John Teeter was born. In the year 2036, John, a temporal soldier, would be sent back in time. His mission? Save the world. On July 29, 1998, Art Bell, host of Coast to Coast AM, was running what he called open timelines. He wanted calls from people who claimed to be time travelers. Obviously, this brought out plenty of kooks. But then a fax came in that felt eerily real.
Dear Art, I had to fax when I heard other time travelers calling in from any time past the year 2500 AD. Please let me explain. Time travel was invented in 2034. Offshoots of certain
successful fusion reactor research allowed scientists at CERN to produce the world's first contained singularity engine. The basic design involves rotating singularities inside a magnetic field. By altering the speed and direction of rotation, you can travel both forward and backward in time. Time itself can be understood in terms of connected lines. When you go back in time, you travel on your original timeline. When you turn your singularity engine off, a new timeline is created due to the fact that you and your time machine are now there. Some interesting outcomes of this are, 1, you meet yourself. I have done it often, even taken a younger version of myself along for a few rides, before returning myself to the new timeline and going back to mine. 2, you can alter history in the new universe that you have just created. Most of the time, the changes are subtle. Sometimes I'll notice car models that don't exist or books that come out late. Unfortunately, it was also discovered that anyone going forward in time for my 2036 hit a brick wall in the year 2564. Please pray that we discover
the reason why there is no apparent future after 2564.
A few days later, a second fax came in.
Dear Mr. Bell, I'm glad you're back. I faxed this information to you the day before you left the air. As I said then, I'm a time traveler. I have been on this world line since April of this year and I plan to leave soon. Typically, time travelers do not purposely affect the world lines they visit. However, this mission is unusually long, and I've grown attached to some of the people I have met here. Anyway, for my own reasons, I have decided to help this world line by sharing information about the future with a few people, in the hope that it will help their future. I realize my claims are a bit difficult to accept, so I will send the following once I know you have received this fax. A few pages from the operations manual of my time machine, and a few colored photographs of my vehicle. If you wish to contact me, I will be happy to share with you the nature of time, the physics of time travel, and some of the events of your future.
Art Bell didn't hear from this person again, which was too bad because he offered to show proof. Everybody who heard that broadcast wanted to see a working time machine, learn the science behind time travel, and know events from the future. 2 years later, they would get their wish. A little over 2 years after the time traveler sent faxes to Art Bell, a user who called himself Time Traveler Zero and later John Teeter created an account on a message board called the Time Travel Institute. On November 2nd, 2000, he submitted his first post.
Greetings. I am a time traveler from the year 2036. I am on my way home after getting an IBM 5100 computer system from the year 1975. My time machine is a stationary mass temporal displacement unit manufactured by General Electric. The unit is powered by 2 top-spin dual positive singularities that produce a standard offset Tipler sinusoid. I will be happy to post pictures of the unit.
Now, before we get into it, I have to be fair and say there were plenty of people on the message board who were skeptical, who wouldn't be. But John Teeter was very specific and seemed to have very specialized knowledge. First off, a Tipler sinusoid or Tipler cylinder is a theoretical method of time travel outlined in a paper by Frank Tipler in 1974. So we're off to an interesting start. But what about the IBM 5100? Why would anyone with the technology to travel through time need a computer that was, in 2036, about 80 years old? Well, John Teeter said the 5100 was needed to debug legacy computer programs in 2036 because Unix has a problem in 2038. Well, that's true. Remember the Y2K scare? The fear was hardware and software that measured the year in 2 digits would freak out when the year changed from 99 to 00. Now, the world didn't end as some people anticipated, but Y2K did cause some sporadic problems. Something similar is going to happen in 2038, and it could be worse. Unix systems measure time in seconds. A Unix timestamp is the number of seconds since January 1st, 1970. So the Unix timestamp 1 minute after that date is 60. The timestamp 1 hour after that date is 3600, and up it goes. As I write this, the Unix timestamp is 166-413-1870, so about 1.6 billion seconds. Without getting too geeky, a 32-bit integer can only go as high as about 2.1 billion. The official last date that a 32-bit system can recognize is Tuesday, January 19th, 2038. After that, things could get interesting.
Ooh, interesting is never good.
It's not. And the way to solve this is by upgrading systems to 64 bits.
And how far in the future does that get us?
Well, the max 64-bit number is about 9.2 quintillion. So that gets us to the year 292 billion and change.
Oh, that should be enough.
It will be.
So what does an old computer have to do with this?
Well, John Teeter said the IBM 5100 could help them debug legacy code. And this is actually correct. Most personal computers, like the IBM 5100, could only support the basic programming language. But the 5100 had special functionality that was hidden from the public. It could run programs written in BASIC, but it could also run APL programs written for IBM mainframes. That's useful. Only the IBM engineers who designed it knew this secret. They were afraid of how competitors might use it. In 2002, NASA was buying old gear on eBay because that was the only way to find Intel 8086 chips, which they needed for various missions. So this is something that happens. So, John Teeter's first post contained a lot of sound science and information that wasn't well known at the time. But he was just getting started. John Teeter was very active on the message board. He would answer any question anyone had. He just wouldn't talk about things like the stock market or who would win the Super Bowl. He said he wasn't interested in helping anyone get rich, and even if he was, he couldn't remember who won a Super Bowl 35 years ago. But John Teeter also said that predictions like that could be wrong because he was from a different timeline, which he called a world line. How he explained it was, imagine a cone where the diameter of the cone is how different the destination time is from your own. You enter the time machine at the tip of the cone. The further backward or forward in time you go, the larger the divergence. Teeter said that when he arrived in the year 2000, the divergence was about 1 or 2%. Now that's not a lot, but it's enough where different teams could win different games. What Teeter is describing is the many worlds interpretation of quantum mechanics, where anything that can possibly happen does happen. It just happens in a different timeline. Teeter specifically referred to the Everett Wheeler model, which again shows a good grasp of quantum mechanics and the scientists working in the field. And even though John Teeter wouldn't make petty predictions, he would describe his life and the future in detail. John said that in the early 2000s, there would be a Waco-type event every month that steadily gets worse. The Civil War in the United States starts in 2004, and the war affects everyone. At the age of 13, John joins a shotgun infantry unit called the Fighting Diamondbacks, and the war continues until 2015 and finally ends with what he calls a very short World War III. Taking advantage of America's weakness, Russia attacked cities in the United States, China, and Europe. The United States retaliated, and as a result, 3 billion people are killed. The only people to survive are the ones who don't live in the big cities. In the aftermath of the war, the United States is split into 5 separate regions. Each region elects its own president, and all 5 presidents serve a new, very diminished federal government in the capital, which has been moved to Omaha, Nebraska.
In 2036, I live in Central Florida with my family, and I'm currently stationed at an Army base in Tampa. A world war in 2015 killed nearly 3 billion people. The people that survived grew closer together. Life is centered on the family and in the community. I cannot imagine living even a few hundred miles away from my parents. There's no large industrial complex creating masses of useless food and recreational items. Food and livestock is grown and sold locally. People spend much more time reading and talking together face to face. Religion is taken seriously, and everyone can multiply and divide in their heads.
This new world is now a simpler place. More focus is placed on family, the community, and religion. The biggest fear John Teeter has is mad cow disease, which has become a worldwide pandemic. John transfers into a military unit with 7 other time travelers, and their job is to go back and try and prevent as much environmental damage as possible. The narrative John Teeter creates is very detailed, and I'll link to a page where you can read every one of his posts. And even though people on the message board were entertained and fascinated, they were skeptical. They wanted to know, 1, can you tell us how your time travel device works? And 2, can you show us a picture of it? The answer was yes, and yes. John Teeter posted diagrams of his time travel device, pictures of the operator's manual, and even pictures of the device itself. According to John, time travel is discovered in 2034 by scientists at CERN. Using this breakthrough technology, General Electric actually creates working time travel devices. These machines go through various iterations and improvements. The time travel unit John Teeter uses is a C204 gravity distortion time displacement unit, which operates using microsingularities, or tiny black holes.
The source of power for the C204 that allows it to distort and manipulate gravity comes from 2 microsingularities that were created, captured, and cleaned at a much larger and circular facility. The dual event horizons of each one and their mass is manipulated by ejecting electrons onto the surface of their respective ergospheres. The electricity comes from batteries. The breakthrough that will allow for this technology will occur within a year or so when CERN brings their larger facility online.
John Teeter talks about Kerr black holes, which are black holes that rotate, and Tipler cylinders. Now, these are real theories in physics that involve time travel. One of the most interesting pieces of technology in John Teeter's time machine is called a variable gravity lock system, or VGL. Since the machine only travels through time and not space, the VGL makes sure that the Earth is in the same place in orbit when it reaches its destination. Otherwise, you end up floating in space, which is not ideal.
The hard part of traveling through time is not the bending of gravity, but the plotting of your course and holding to the basic position in your environment. This is done through a system called VGL, Variable Gravity Lock. In effect, it holds you to the Earth. During travel, it periodically checks to see that the field is not varied. If it does, it stops and reverses course or drops out at that point. Buildings and other terrain features are avoided in the same way. As soon as the VGL sensors pick up an unexpected mass in the target world line, it would shut down.
The C204 has an array of computers, clocks, and sensors to get you to the correct date. But because timelines get more and more different the further forward or back you go, the unit maxes out at about 60 years. Someone asked him about traveling back 1,000 years. John said that you wouldn't even recognize that world.
The distortion unit reaches its target destination by using very sensitive gravity sensors and atomic clocks. The basic unit of calculation is the second. So yes, in a sense you do dial in a date and the computer system controls the distortion field. At maximum power, the unit I have is capable of traveling about 10 years an hour. Unfortunately, time travel is not an exact science. There is inherent error and chaos in the computer's ability to make accurate calculations. Based on the current technology of the clocks and sensors, distortion units are only accurate to about 60 years or so. So no, in 2036 we are unable to travel back 1,000 years due to the error rate in the system. The divergence between the world line of origin and the target world line would be too great. If one were to try and travel back that far, history would look nothing like what you would expect. In other words, if I wanted to go back 2,000 years and meet Christ, there is a better than average chance I would end up on a world line where he was never born.
Hold on. One of those pictures, it looked like a bucket seat with a seatbelt.
Yep, that's because on John Teeter's first trip, the time machine was mounted inside a 67 Chevy.
No, I guess a DeLorean is too on the nose.
Well, the reason for the Chevy and why John later moved the machine to a truck is because the C204 is heavy. It needs a vehicle with a suspension that can handle the weight. Plus, the time machine has to be mobile. Since it only travels through time and not space, you have to drive to your physical destination first and then move through time. He chose those vehicles because they blend into the times he was traveling to.
No, did he say what it feels like to time travel? Like, does it hurt? Does your face get all stretchy?
Well, John Teeter does talk about this.
The gravity field generated by the unit overtakes you very quickly. You feel a tug toward the unit similar to rising quickly in an elevator, and it continues to rise based on the power setting the unit is working under. At 100% power, the constant pull of gravity can be as high as 2 Gs or more, depending on how close you are to the unit. There are no serious side effects, but I try to avoid eating before a flight. No bright flash of light is seen. Outside, the vehicle appears to accelerate as the light is bent around it. We have to wear sunglasses or close our eyes, as this happens due to a short burst of ultraviolet radiation. Personally, I think it looks like you're driving under a rainbow. After that, it appears to fade to black and remains totally black until the unit is turned off. We're advised to keep the windows closed as a great deal of heat builds up outside the car. The gravity field also traps a small air pocket around the car that acts as your only O2 supply, unless you bring compressed air with you.
2 Gs, ugh. I could never time travel because of my IBS.
That's TMI.
No, it's IBS.
Never mind. Naturally, people were skeptical of all this technology, but John Teeter didn't really care.
My goal is not to be believed. Most people do not take news of the war very well, but I find that everyone believes it's inevitable. I watch every day what you are doing as a society. While you sit by and watch your constitution being torn away from you, you willfully eat poisoned food, buy manufactured products no one needs, and turn an uncaring eye away from millions of people suffering and dying all around you. Perhaps I should let you all in on a little secret. No one likes you in the future. This time period is looked at as being full of lazy, self-centered, civically ignorant sheep. Perhaps you should be less concerned about me and more concerned about that.
You know, he makes a lot of good points, but there's no reason to be a dick about it.
John Teeter's face was never seen, his voice was never heard, and John Teeter is not his real name, so there's not much we know about him. But one person did have a close relationship with John, or at least claimed to: Pamela Moore. Pamela was very active on the message boards and spent a lot of time chatting with John over IM. Before John Teeter left, he said he would make a departure video and send it to Pamela.
How's she supposed to know the video's legit?
Well, because John provided Pamela with a secret song to act as a password. This is something only the two of them know, so she could identify imposters. And to this day, the departure video has not arrived, and Pamela has never revealed the secret song. On March 24th, 2001, John Teeter would leave his final message and some words of wisdom.
I will be leaving this world line shortly, and this will be my final post. There are only a handful of people who will know exactly when I will be leaving, and I'm sure they will let you know when I'm gone. In the last few days, I have found your choice of topics quite interesting. And from an objective viewpoint, I think it collectively answers one of your own questions. If time travel is real, where are all the time travelers? In the past, I've stated that, quite frankly, you all scare the hell out of me. And I'm sure other temporal drivers would feel the same. But now I have an expanded explanation. A while ago, I related an experience I had with my parents while we were driving down a highway. Every now and then, we would pass someone who was in obvious distress with their vehicle. I was amazed that so many people could pass them without stopping to help. Their explanation was fear. The risk of helping someone was too great, and with today's technology, it probably had a cell phone anyway. If they didn't, the walk to a gas station would be good for them and teach them a lesson for running out of gas. This is why time travelers do not show themselves. In trying to help you, we put ourselves at great risk, and there's really no point to it. I already know you won't pay any attention or believe me because we've already been through it on this world line. Besides, I think the walk to the gas station will do you some good. I also want to thank Pamela for helping me with the email and everyone else who asked intelligent and insightful questions. I have learned a great deal. My parting thought